Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar drop-in session on the Postgraduate Advanced Certificate in Educational Studies in Educational Assessment. Thank you everyone for coming along and taking your time out of your busy schedules to come and join us this afternoon, morning or evening, depending on where you are around the world. My name is Simon Child. I'm the Head of Assessment Training at the Cambridge Assessment Network. And I'm the course director for the Postgraduate Advanced Certificate in Educational Assessment. The course is a master's level course, and it's worth 90 credits at master's level. So that's the equivalent of half a master's. And actually, one of the advantages of this particular course is that it gives you the opportunity to complete a master's through part-time study with the University of Cambridge. So I can talk to you a little bit about that later on. It's a part-time course and it's completely online delivered. So it's part-time. The expectation is that during the contact weeks, it will be 6 to 7 hours per week during the course itself. And it begins in late September 2024 and finishes in December 2025. I'll talk about some of the detail of the course itself in terms of the modular structure and so on in the next couple of slides. It's in terms of who the course has been taken by in the past, there's a number of different types of student that we've had over the years. So hopefully some of these will match on with your own personal and professional experiences. So we've had teachers, members of awarding organisations, otherwise known as examination boards, teachers who are university staff. We've also had people from different professional organisations, such as accountancy firms and so on. We've also had students that are educational ministry members, and also lots of different types of locations as well. So one of the things that always surprises me was I'm looking at people who have applied for the course is the variety in terms of the professional backgrounds that they've had, and it's a really enriching part of the course that you get to discuss some of the issues with students from all sorts of different walks of life. The course is, as I mentioned before, remotely delivered, and as part of that, it's open to international student applications as well. So there's no need for visas or anything like that as part of the application process. I'll go into more detail later on about how you would apply if you're interested in joining the course. And finally, the main key facts for this Q&A is the application deadline, which is the 10th of July, with the course starting in late September for the induction week. So that's a key thing to a date to put in your diary, so to speak. In terms of the things that we hope that you take away from the course itself, as you build up your expertise and you study through the content and so on, is first of all to develop this in-depth understanding of key concepts and issues within the field of educational assessment. And this is a really key pillar of what it means to be strong in terms of assessment expertise, but also building up what we would call your leadership capacities within educational assessment context. So to take an example, if you're a teacher, someone that's a senior manager or a senior leader within the school or within your professional organisation, is really giving you the skills and experience to become a leader within your organisation in relation to assessment practices. So what we call the changing of assessment cultures within your organisation. And the things that you learn through the learning outcomes, such as a critical reflective approach and connecting data to theoretical perspectives and so on, are the key skills that we envisage help you become that assessment leader within your organisation. So we see it in some ways as almost a professional track for you to become the go-to person within your organisation, and that can be a very powerful range of expertise to have in your toolkit. You also pick up skills in relation to research methods, including critical reflection, understanding of methodological issues and ethical understanding and so on. And this is closely attached to assignments that you would conduct as part of the course, in particular assignment 2. And I'll go through some of the details of the assignment approach as we go through. And you also build up your skills in self-organization, academic writing and planning as well, because you have to organize your time around your work life or your professional life. So you pick up a lot of softer skills or 21st century skills as part of the process as well. I wanted to give you some quotations that have been provided to us by former students to give you a sense of the sorts of things that they're taking away from the course. And of course, as well, we'll be listening to Bethan as we go through. So one of the things that they mention is this idea of having more confidence in dealing with some of the technical issues of assessment. And particularly when working with people that perhaps don't have their level of expertise and knowledge in relation to assessment design. So they have more confidence in undertaking research and taking part in research projects as part of what we call assessment validation. So really being able to trust that your assessments have worked as well as you want to. It's offered, students have mentioned that they've learned different perspectives from other students, but also from the course tutors as well. So really building on their assessment literacy and taking it to an incredibly in-depth level, something that they can share with their wider teaching community. Also as well that the course has given them more confidence at work and given them equip them with skills to influence change within the organization. So that's the point of the leadership role that the postgraduate certificate allows you to take up. And also people have used it as a springboard for their career advancement as well. So going from middle management to senior management within their organization, using the status that the course provides as part of the journey. In terms of the overall structure of the course, we take a blended learning approach. So there's a mix of live sessions, online content that's delivered through our virtual learning environment, and also a mixture of assignments and other activities that incorporate a fully blended learning experience. So you can see the dates here on the overview of the course structure here in this figure that's on the web page. So you can see that there are 4 online day schools, and those are the dates that they're being delivered. They're delivered between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. UK time. We also have a range of webinars that are part of the course structure as well. So they're interspersed within the different weeks and the units of the course itself. So there's 12 of those, which last up to an hour. So this is a range of our research methods sessions, which there are 6 of those, which are hosted by the Faculty of Education and a research expert at the faculty. We also have a range of guest speakers as well. So they talk about some of the research and the key issues that they're interested in, and they can come from all sorts of different areas, such as different university settings or professional settings. There are 3 assignments in total, 1 for each individual unit. And overall, there are 32 content weeks. So 10 for Unit 1, 12 for Unit 2, and a further 10 for Unit 3. And you can see here in the overall figure that there's 2 options for Unit 2. So every student takes Unit 1, the principles of assessment, and then you're given an option of either taking assessment design and evaluation, option A, or assessment for learning, option B. So generally speaking, people that are involved in education, so teachers and so on, tend to select option B, assessment for learning, and others that work for examination organizations or other professional bodies and so on tend to choose option A. However, that isn't always the case. We do have a mix between the choices that the different persona groups take within our course. And then all the students come back together again for Unit 3, focusing on issues and debates and assessment. And this is a really interesting module because with things like artificial intelligence, digital assessment, and all those things coming through at the moment, all the trends and the ideas around assessment that are of interest at the moment, this unit really targets those particular issues in a lot more depth. So it's a good way of rounding off the course because it essentially gives you a sense or a look into the future of assessment and your role within it. There's 1 supervisor per student. So the supervisory role is a key part of the overall experience that you have as a student. So you have a supervisor that's provided to you at the beginning of Unit 1, and they're a key relationship because they help you in terms of offering feedback on your assignments, giving you pastoral support when you need it, and also directing you to key learning and reading and so on as you need to find it as part of your working towards your assignment. And finally, you also get full library access. So we have a dedicated library team in the Faculty of Education, and they are all too happy to help if you need to find resources and reading and other things as well to help you get the most out of your studies on the course. This is just an overview of some of the guest speakers that we've had in the past, and they come from all around the world. So we've had Rob Coe from Evidence-Based Education, Tim Oates from Cambridge University Press and Assessment, who's a leading figure in terms of curriculum design and its relationship to assessment. Sue Swaffield from the Faculty of Education, Teresa Hoptonback from University of Oxford, and Stuart Shaw, who's now the chair of the Chartered Institute of Examinations and Assessors. So every year we have an interesting mix of guest speakers from all sorts of different research perspectives and backgrounds, and it's a real enriching part of the course. So at this point, I wanted to give you an opportunity to listen to one of our students, Bethan Cotterill. So Bethan is a digital assessment designer for the International Baccalaureate, and she was a recent student who just qualified for the course in February this year. So a recent person who's received her certificate, if you like, in terms of passing the course. And so what I wanted to do was give you an opportunity to listen from Bethan in relation to a couple of questions that I had for her. So at this point, I'll just stop sharing my screen so you can see Bethan on screen. So welcome, Bethan. Thank you for coming along.
Thanks, Simon.
It's great for you to take the time to speak to the potential students today. So the first question that I had for you that I think would be interesting for the students to hear about, or the potential students to hear about, was what motivated you initially to join the Postgraduate Advanced Certificate in Educational Assessment?
So I had been, in 2022, when I applied for this course, I had been working for 3.5 years in assessment. My background before that was graphic design and visual arts. So I had come into working with schools through graphic design, realized, oh, I'm really interested in the challenges faced by schools. So then I joined the International Baccalaureate in 2019, interested in working with education content. Because my background was graphic design, I was, as the years passed, I was becoming more and more interested in the education side of things, the pedagogy underlying what we were doing. But because my academic background was not in education, to be honest, there's like a whole vocabulary that I was hearing in the workplace, and I didn't know what these words meant. Basically, concepts like, some of you may be already familiar with these concepts, like validity, in particular, was a word that I felt like cropped up at every turn for me at work, and I didn't know what it meant. So I had been searching for postgraduate courses, for master's level courses in education. And then I came across this course online. I saw that it was not going straight into a master's, which for me was perfect because I felt, oh, my academic background is not in education, but I have lots of this practical experience, and I would like to kind of funnel that into the insights that I can get out of my practical experience, while not going into the deep end straight into a master's of education. So that was what brought me to this course. I was looking for study opportunities to learn more, or learn what all these things meant that I was working with, but bringing my expertise as a designer and the techie side of producing examinations. And yeah, I should probably mention that when I say I joined the IB in 2019, I've been in assessment, development, and delivery for the International Baccalaureate that whole time. So working always on assessments, but without an understanding of the theories underlying and the pedagogy underlying. That's what brought me here.
Great, thanks, Bethan. One of the questions that the potential students here may have is obviously it's a part-time course, and there's people have to work around their professional lives and so on. So we're just wondering about how you organised and managed that process of being a part-time student whilst working full-time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me and for others on the course who I spoke to, this I think is a very individual thing. It depends on it was a bit of trial and error early on in the course, figuring out what times of day are best for me. And then once I'd kind of cracked that code and figured out that working in the morning before work, I found much easier in terms of doing readings when I'm fresh for the day. But people who are not morning people, like I'm a morning person, but if you're not, maybe you prefer to do it after work when you're at kind of peak focus. But so yeah, for me, it was more, it was about finding the right rhythm for me to study on top of work. I also managed my responsibilities within work, making sure that I'm finishing my work within working hours when I can, because I know that I'm going to get up and study the following morning and want to be fresh for that. So it was not effortless, especially during busy times at work, or specifically when our kind of peak season in assessment at the IB coincided with assignments. It was tricky at times, but I did it, and I do think that anyone can do it. It's just a matter, I think, of finding out what your best rhythms are during the week, during the day for doing the work.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Bethan. You know, the idea of almost a bit of trial and error, as you said, in terms of finding when the best time to work, or whether you can use weekends and other time to incorporate some of your study time into it is it's a really important one. But also that point about busy periods and how we manage that as a course team as well. So the supervisors and the course tutors that are working on the course, we have strategies that we can implement to help students that are going through a particular busy time at work, or some other circumstance that means that they may not actually get to the course content on the time that they want to. So each unit has an online tutor whose primary role is to help students in that process. So that's just something to add as well in terms of additional information for prospective students. And the final question that I had for you, Bethan, was really in terms of obviously it's a short period of time since you've completed the course, so to speak. It was just over a month ago. But I was wondering about how you feel that the course has supported your work since you've completed it.
Since completing the course, I was actually thinking about this in the meeting I was in directly prior to joining this webinar. I was thinking, I'm about to talk about my experience of the course, and I was in the meeting I was just in at work using some of the things, the concepts that I've learned on the course. For me, because I work in IB assessment, it has been completely foundational. I understand the vocabulary being used around me every day in a way that I didn't before. So, and during that time, in fact, while completing the course, I moved from the very kind of well-established IB assessments on paper, which have a history of 50 plus years of development and production, into a team working on development of brand new digital assessments, a combination of new assessments and adapting existing paper assessments to the digital format. And I use what I learned on the course every single day in terms of helping me confidently advocate for best practice. I think that some of you out there may relate to this. You pick up a lot from doing the work, but you may not pick up the vocabulary for then advocating for best practice. And so that was something that this course gave me by doing all the readings and yeah, learning the terminology, and that gave me so much confidence in feeling like I could then say confidently to colleagues at whatever level, this is what I recommend and here's why. So that's what it's given me, which has been, yeah, enormous on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And one of the things that just to add to that, that the assignments that we give to the students are often trying to almost coach them through that particular process in terms of, as Bethan mentioned, making recommendations for the next steps in terms of making an improvement to an assessment, its implications for something like assessment for learning or feedback or whatever it may be, whatever your interest is in terms of professional and its professional development and its relation to assessment, whatever that happens to be, you can explore those in your assignments, and that connection between the assignment being closely contextualized has that knock-on effect of you being able to talk to people around you in your workplace to allow you to make those changes that you want to make, and as Bethan said, be confident in doing so. So yes, thank you very much, Bethan. That's really interesting in terms of your perspectives. If you do have any questions that you want to direct to Bethan as part of this session, feel free to do so in the chat. But in the meantime, I'll just finish off my presentation. So just a few more slides to go. So hopefully you can see that okay. And I'll just move on to the next bit. So hopefully by this point you're thinking, oh yes, I'm really enthusiastic about taking the course. How do I actually go about the application? So as I mentioned before, the application deadline is the 10th of July 2024. So the process is relatively straightforward, we like to think. So the first thing to do is to register an account on our application portal. So there's a link to the portal there, but I think one will go into the chat as well, just for ease of reference. And the things that you need to provide as part of the application are on the left-hand side here. So the main or the most important element is in some ways the personal statement. So that is it's about 500 words that we ask for, where you're talking or giving a justification for why you're interested in the course, what's motivated you to apply, and also how you think that the course would be useful for your professional practice going forward. So they're the two of the key questions that we have as part of that process. We also ask for contact details of 2 referees, including their email addresses. So if you can provide those at an early stage, that's very useful. And also any qualification transcripts or certificates that you need as well. So in particular, if you are English as a second or a third or additional language, giving any certification that you have for that, for example, IELTS, if you can provide those, that would be very, very useful for the application process. And a copy of a passport or identification as well is required as part of the application process. So not too many things to offer as part of the portal, but you can upload those relatively straightforward in the portal itself. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, in the application form, in particular the personal statement, you should try and show us or demonstrate the following things. So any experience that you have working in an assessment or educational context. So we've got an overview of where you've come from or where you're currently working. Your motivation to use your learning from the course to improve your professional practice or policy. Your motivation and willingness to engage with academic and professional literature, because it's a master's level course. There is a requirement for you to engage with academic research from recent times, but also historical periods as well. You know, the validity theory and so on has quite a long history, so there are some older papers as well to engage with. And also your ability to work independently and collaboratively. And then finally, any details of English qualifications if necessary. So as we're looking at applications, we're looking at these criteria and whether it's a general holistic judgment about whether you've shown enough of this knowledge and experience to be able to be a strong student on the course, because we want to make sure that we're building you up for success and to pass the course at the end. And finally, just before we go to the Q&A, some commonly asked questions from students in previous sessions like this one. So one of the frequently asked questions is, how much time does a student actually spend on the course per week? So over that 15-month period, there are 32 teaching weeks, and there's a summer break period in August time. Within those 32 teaching weeks, there are 3 assignments. So as a result of that, we generally speaking recommend that students spend about 5 to 6 hours study per contact week. And outside of the contact weeks, there may be additional work around building up and writing your assignments and so on. So that's our kind of working average. That can vary depending on the each content week to content week, depending on the activities and so on that are provided. But it's usually around that on average. Another question is, do I need to attend day schools? So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there are 4 day schools in total. These aren't compulsory, but they are an essential element to the course. So we would expect, as you're applying, that you're making the time to attend those day schools. 3 of the 4 are on a Saturday, and the very first day school is on a Friday. So that's just something to be aware of, Friday the 4th of October. So you should plan to attend all the day schools. Of course, there may be illness or other reasons why you can't attend on the day, but a bit of forward planning is required, really. Another question is to do with payment, and can it be paid in installments? The answer is yes, but it needs to be arranged with the Faculty of Education. So that's the email address to contact them to inquire about the different options for paying in installments. And another question is, can I transfer my credits from this course to another postgraduate course later on? Now, this course is, as I mentioned on the first slide, worth 90 credits at master's level. So that's the equivalent of half a master's degree. Now, within the Faculty of Education, there are 4 additional options that are available to you to take those 90 credits and to gain another 90 to make it a full master's. And the most popular one in terms of the students and where they go is a master's called Transforming Practice, which is a 12-month course that is the equivalent of 90 credits. So that one is perhaps one worth exploring. We also have ones in primary education, mathematics education, and educational leadership. So those are the 4 options that are available to you to use the credits automatically for automatic eligibility to master's level. If you want to use the credits at another institution outside of the Faculty of Education, it's really the receiving institution, so the university that you'd want to apply to, that would have to consider those credits as part of your own application. So it's not something that we can dictate to other universities, unfortunately. Another question we often get asked is that if there's someone that doesn't have a degree, but they think that they've got professional experience in educational assessment or teaching, that may compensate for that requirement. And the question is, can they still apply? And again, the answer is yes, but we consider each application on a case-by-case basis. So in your statement, you should outline your professional experience and how many years you've been working, say, as a teacher and so on, and any qualifications that you do have that could supplement your professional experience. So you should outline in detail your motivation and willingness to engage with the academic literature. So that's just something to bear in mind. Another question is, do I need to have formal English language qualifications? So as mentioned before, if you have English language certificates, please send them through as part of your application, but it's not compulsory as part of the application process. Because we know that some students obviously haven't had the opportunity to certify or formalize their English language capabilities. Where can I find out more about the master's options? So there's a link for you to click on if you want to afterwards to look at the 4 different options that the Faculty of Education offers. And a final question that we get asked is to do with discounts and scholarships and so on. Unfortunately, we don't have any scholarships available for this particular course, and the fees are set by the Central University Graduate Office, so there aren't any discounts available. But as I mentioned before, there are some opportunities to pay in installments if you need to. So I think that's everything that I wanted to talk to you about in relation to the course. You can find out more on our webpage. So if you just put in Cambridge Assessment Network Postgraduate Certificate, this page will come up and it gives you lots of useful information about the application process and so on. So at this point, I just wanted to stop here and give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have.